Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew, and I'm here as always with Venushan, and we're recording the day after the Milwaukee Bucks punched their ticket to the NBA Finals, the first time since they had Kareem, I think. Pretty wild. We have a super unexpected finals. Like if you told us at the beginning of the season that we were gonna have a Suns Bucks finals, I might have believed Bucks, but it's pretty insane that the Suns are in the finals. I don't know what the Giannis status is. I think they said he was gonna play Game 7 out of necessity, probably. So I'm assuming he's going to play at least maybe game 1, game 2. Not going to be 100%, but it'll be a fun series either way. I guess let's just talk about the finals. What we think is going to happen. How do you see the series going, and the impact it's going to have on Chris Paul and Giannis? There's a lot of implications that the series could have.
Yeah, the good thing about the finals is it's so spaced out, so that's helped
Mm-hmm.
Giannis.
Yeah.
First game's on Tuesday, second game Thursday, third game Sunday, and then you don't have a game till Wednesday, and then Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday. So you have a lot of rest days, you have a lot of spacing. So even if he misses like game one,
Yeah.
he comes back like Thursday, like that's a decent amount of off time. Because without Giannis, this team is getting swept.
Yeah.
This isn't like a Kawhi situation where, man, like Terrence Mann steps up, Reggie Jackson steps up. You know what I mean? Like the Suns are significantly better than the Bucks without Giannis, and it's like a sweep.
Mm-hmm.
But Giannis is a two-time MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year. We know how good he is, and he can bridge that talent gap, and he makes this a competitive series. Uh, yeah, the thing with Giannis and like the most important thing is what percentage he's playing at. So like
Mm-hmm.
if I had to assume it would be 70%, like what percentage do you think he's gonna be
Yeah.
playing
I
at?
wouldn't go any higher than 80. He's going to be
Yeah,
playing on like half a leg. I think that was, yeah. Like if this weren't the finals, if this were the regular season, he'd probably miss his what, like 3 weeks,
100%.
something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Uh with a I mean like with a fully healthy Giannis, I think I take the Bucks probably in like 7 maybe in this series. But with a not healthy Giannis, like I don't know. We've seen the Bucks offense struggle even with him playing really well. And the Suns, even though they don't have like one guy that can match him physically, neither the Nets didn't and the Hawks didn't either, right? They have Ayton, a big body.
Yeah.
They have Bridges, who's a really good defender. I think we are going to see this Bucks offense struggle. The question is, they're a really good defensive team, and I think Drew Holiday on Chris Paul. You got maybe Drew Holiday spent some time on Booker. You obviously have Giannis there, like he can hang with Ayton. Ayton doesn't really shoot too many threes, so Brook Lopez can kind of do his thing. Uh, I don't know. I think it is going to be a really close series though. Like even if we just have Giannis playing at 80%, I think it's going to be pretty close.
Prediction. I have Sun 6.
Sun 6, yeah. I think I'm gonna go Sun 7. I think just I'm assuming Giannis is going to play game 1, and this year's going to be close. One thing to look out for though is like we have seen Trae Young, one of the best mid-range players in the league, burn Brook Lopez,
Dominate.
and
Yeah.
Chris Paul basically has that same skill set
Devin
as
Booker.
Trae Young, Devin Booker, but Chris Paul has 17 years of experience. Like Brook Lopez could legitimately get played off the floor in this series. That like if Middleton and Holiday don't show up on offense, and don't step up, even with Giannis, this could be like Suns in 5. Like, what do you expect from those guys? Like, I think Booker's gonna have to work a lot offensively. Like, maybe you can go at him defensively. Like, what are you expecting from Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday in the series?
Yeah, the key thing is we seen Drew Holiday be so much more aggressive the last game. Seen Chris Middleton improve a lot and be more aggressive the last game. So you hope that last game and the last two games without Giannis, that just this is the one that pushes them, and they're like, okay, guys, we have to play like this. This is like, we can even like
Yeah,
help Giannis. We could like, he's 70%. We need to play way more aggressive, and hopefully, like Charles Barkley was saying, like this could be a blessing in disguise because this could be what switches out guys. Because now it's instead of Giannis could go at us a bucket easily, it's like this guy's 70%. So let us go push the pace. Let
mm-hmm.
us go do everything and try to get him easy dump ins and
Yeah,
save and preserve him to a fourth quarter, right?
yeah,
So if they go in with that mentality, if Coach Bud makes the changes not to have Brook Lopez all the way in the paint on pick switches, he really competitive series, and I hope it is.
yeah. That's actually a really good point that you brought up from Charles Barkley. Because one thing we all want to see more of Giannis is like less ball handling, more just in the dunker spot, playing as a big
Yeah,
man. And maybe we do see that. Maybe like they don't want him running around on the perimeter so much. They just have him, close to the paint. It could be a blessing in disguise. But yeah, like what do you DeAndre Ayton? Do you think DeAndre Ayton is going to be able to expose Brook Lopez at all? Like DeAndre Ayton has been pretty much an all-star level player for them this whole playoffs. What do you expect from him in this series?
This is like on a defensive matchup. This is probably his hardest matchup since like
Yeah.
the Lakers because
Yeah.
Jokic is so focused on offense that obviously he's fatigued on defense. Uh, Morris and Zubac aren't defenders that Brook Lopez is, and Anthony Davis barely played, and Marc Gasol barely got time because he has I don't know what he has with the coach, but they have a little friction.
Yeah.
So like Brook Lopez is gonna have a lot of opportunity. He just can't sag off on the
Mm-hmm.
on the pick and rolls.
Yeah. 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 Where Chris Paul, even when Chris Paul is not facing guys who just completely sag off, he burns them right whenever he gets a switch on the pick and roll. So that's definitely something to look out for. Maybe Giannis at the 5 is gonna have to happen, but if Giannis is not 100%, we don't want him like having to chase around too many like Chris Paul on the pick and roll too much. So pretty much how competitive the series is may just come down to how healthy Giannis is, and I don't know. It's going to be tough, but I'm still expecting a good series from him. It's still going to be a good showing, I think, from both sides, and I don't know. I'm just super excited to see it happen.
Yeah, I know we've seen players have like really good performances when banged up. Like Kevin Durant was playing
Yeah,
on basically one Achilles
yeah,
that little like 9 minutes against the Raptors, and he was going
yeah,
off. So yeah, we can still expect great numbers from Giannis and great performance from him. It's just we hope it doesn't further injury like what happened to Kevin Durant. Obviously,
yeah,
we hope it doesn't have a career altering or a season altering injury happen. And we hope everyone stays healthy because we need this to be a fun series because the
yeah.
NBA ratings have been taking a hit
Mm-hmm.
with the Euros, with Copa America, with NHL playoffs. It's a lot of competition. They took a hit last year too. They took a hit mid-season because of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So the ratings are obviously have not been good these last 2 years. So we want a good finals ratings, and we want to show that small market teams do pull in fans because Milwaukee and Phoenix, they aren't the Los Angeles
Yeah,
Lakers, Miami of last year, right? Or they aren't even a Golden State Warriors dynasty that's been in for the last how many years, right? So we want to show that small market teams can get ratings, can do these jobs, and we just hope that people tune in, and for people to tune in, Giannis has to be healthy.
yeah, 100%. So speaking of Giannis, he's obviously taking a lot of criticism. Everyone loves Giannis. You can't really hate on him, but there are really big criticisms you can make of him. If he does pull off winning a championship, this year. And what looked like after they beat the Nets, it looked like the Bucks should have been the runaway favorites for the title. Now there's a bit of an uphill battle, a big uphill battle in the final. So if he does pull this off, injured, with a team that has kind of been shown to be maybe not so good of a team without him, what do you think this means for his legacy and kind of how we see him as like a top 5, top 3 maybe player in the
He
NBA?
he could push himself into if this guy keeps performing at this level, he has GOAT potential status. Because at 26, he'll have two MVPs, one Defensive Player of the Year, and an MVP and a Finals MVP. I mean, NBA championship and a Finals MVP, and
Yeah.
also MVP as well. So like he could really push himself, and him winning a championship makes MVP and Defensive Player of the Year is much big possibilities next year
Mhm.
because that voter fatigue is going to go away
Yeah.
because he proved himself in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, this could literally push Giannis from maybe a guy that struggles to get in the top 10, which is still like a crazy accomplishment. We're talking about top 10 all time of every
Yeah.
single NBA player.
Yeah.
But like we're talking about he's pushing the top 10 versus he's pushing to like top 3 with Kareem, LeBron, and MJ. So yeah, Giannis is that good of a player. He's that good of a talent where we have that expectations of him of top 10 versus like top 3. Shaq even said, you can have my nickname, Superman. He wasn't
Mhm.
very keen on giving it to Dwight Howard, but he's very keen on giving it to Giannis because even Shaq recognizes he's that good. Man, like he's that good of a player. He's that young, and we just wanted to see him succeed because it's going to be like seeing a young LeBron, you know, as
Yeah.
one fades, as one career of an all-time great fades, another one is there. So it'll be amazing to see.
Yeah, and I don't remember the last time we had like someone won a championship that had this much room for improvement. Like he's a top 5, top 3 player in the NBA. Like we all know
Yeah.
that, 2-time MVP, but the free throw shooting, the shooting in general is like he could get 30% better like in the next 5 years if that shooting comes around. So to win a championship this early, get the monkey off your back. maybe have that pressure kind of taken off and be able to, I don't know, just play with more freedom, not be just not have that pressure of winning a championship. This early in your career is going to just, you're right. He could be set up for like literally a top 10 all time career. And so going to someone who has had a long career and has been waiting this whole time for his championship, Chris Paul um, finally makes the finals, has been one of the most feel good stories of the year. This championship probably has more, I don't know if it has more, but has just as big of an impact on his legacy and how we remember him as it does for his counterpart, Giannis. So like, I think no matter what happens this year, we're gonna, one of the main things we're gonna remember about Chris Paul is just him going into teams and making everyone on that team better. Like DeAndre Ayton went from a guy who Chris Paul was calling out halfway through the season and didn't even want to play with to being
Yeah,
maybe like a top 5, top 4 center in the NBA, just like one of the most all well-rounded centers in the NBA, helping Devin Booker reach that next level. We're gonna remember him for that, but how much of an impact other than that could this championship have on him and his legacy?
it literally, when Chris Paul retires, if he doesn't win a ring, the thing we'll talk about is who's the greatest player to not win a ring. Karl
Yeah.
Malone, John Stockton, Chris Paul. We'll be talking about all of them, talking about how their impacts, how they just got unlucky. You
Yeah.
know, the Utah Jazz coming up, Michael Jordan, Chris Paul always getting hurt. We'll
Mm-hmm.
be talking about that. If he wins a ring, the conversation changes from that to top 5 greatest point guards of all time.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Stephen A. do his list. We've seen Max Kellerman do his list. They both said if he wins a championship, he's in that list. I had the exact same people they do. They had Magic, Steph Curry, Oscar Robertson, Isaiah
Mm-hmm.
Thomas, and Chris Paul rounding the list. I think that is the 5. I think 90% of NBA fans would agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like, he needs this ring. He enters that super crazy echelon, which he deserves to be in because he's been efficient for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to remember, he was in MVP talks, not really like he wasn't like actually gonna win it, but he was in at least talks,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in MVP talks back in 2009 with Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant.
Yeah.
Like, that's how long he's been maintaining this level of play for,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he deserves to be rewarded with it, and he
Mm-hmm.
deserves to be in that top 5 point guard conversation. And everyone in the NBA is cheering for him to win a ring right now.
Yeah. And the thing,
Unless you're Greek, unless you're
yeah,
Greek,
yeah. We
yeah,
we always talk about LeBron and his longevity, but I think it's almost as impressive, maybe even more impressive
yeah,
for, you look at small point guards in history. It's just John Stockton putting up numbers like
yeah,
this at his age. So to be able to be like the best player or at least the leader of a championship team in your 16th, 17th season is pretty much something that's never happened before. And Chris Paul, like, he's already like obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer, but
yeah.
if he gets this ring, he goes from like a first ballot Hall of Famer to like inner circle
Top
of the
5
Hall
point
of
guard.
Fame type guy,
Yeah,
right? It's huge ramifications on his legacy, even like on a guy like Devin Booker too. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if he's the best player on the team, but he's the best scorer on the team, and
Mhm.
he is like getting all these endorsements from Chris Paul. So we could see his career just take off if this happens.
Yeah, because he's 24. People
Yeah,
forget to realize that. So, like,
yeah,
best players under 25, like, Devin Booker gets kind of like forgotten by
yeah.
casual fans. Obviously, everyone that watches the NBA a lot knows how good he is, but he doesn't have that casual support like a Donovan Mitchell because a lot of casual fans watch the playoffs. And
Mm-hmm.
Devin Booker just wasn't in them until this year. So he just grew a large casual fan base. Like, he just got a lot more popular. Those jerseys, we're going to see a lot of Devin Booker, Chris Paul jersey, 8 in jerseys,
Yeah,
because those Valley Boy jerseys are one of the best looking jerseys,
best in the league, I think. Yeah,
and they're going to win a championship. So
yeah.
you're going to see everyone have them. Devin Booker's endorsement deals are going to go through the roof. 24 with a championship. Whenever you talk about him for the rest of his, like, he still has probably 12 years left in the league.
Yeah.
So for the next 12 years, like, you're going to mention like, oh, but he has one. You know what I mean? When you compare him to someone like Donovan Mitchell, like, let's say their career paths are going, and let's say Donovan Mitchell sadly doesn't reach a championship,
Mm-hmm.
and when they're compared, people are going to be like, oh, the stats are comparable and stuff. But Devin Booker has a ring. Donovan Mitchell doesn't,
Yeah.
and that's going to always elevate. It's like what happens with Kawhi compared to Jimmy Butler and
Mm-hmm.
PG. Yeah, Jimmy Butler and PG are good, and sometimes in regular seasons they're better than Kawhi because Kawhi load manages and rests.
Yeah.
But we know Kawhi has championships. He has that championship pedigree, and he will always be ranked higher than those guys. because of that championship. So for the rest of his career, he's always going to be ranked higher than his peers because of that championship.
Another guy is Aiton. He's a guy who went from, like I said, like kind of an afterthought, like not considered a bust at number one, but on a tier like much below Trae Young and Luka Doncic. And now he's one of the best centers in the NBA, at least two-way centers. Like he's playing himself into a nice contract, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So obviously this is a hyperbole, but when Hakeem won a championship, it justified them drafting Hakeem over Michael Jordan
Yes.
because it's like
Yes.
we won 2 championships with Hakeem Olajuwon. Now DeAndre Ayton wins a championship. The Suns could justify drafting DeAndre Ayton over Luka Doncic and Trae Young because they could be like, hey, we've drafted someone for a position of need and we won a championship. So that's why we did it. And it's justified because a championship comes like we're Raptors fans. We have won in 20 years, our whole history, and we're so happy about that one, right? So winning a championship justifies every decision. So yeah, it's huge. It's huge for the front office, Suns organization, Suns fans. And DeAndre Ayton's going to get a huge bag, and he deserves it because he's going to be a champion as the third best player, like clearly the third best player on this team.
Yeah. And another thing I wonder is like, even though this is not like a normal season where almost every star got injured this playoffs, the Suns are a team with arguably no top 10 players, maybe even no top 15 players. Like I just wonder if we're going to see more like well-rounded, deep teams with like 8 just really good players instead of this like 2 stars and a bunch of kind of lower echelon role players. Do you think we're going to see more of that?
I think people are just going to do a Devin Booker and Chris Paul. They are 2 stars, and they're just going to be like, maybe we need to get that third star, like a DeAndre Ayton, and we need to be a big 3, or we need to be a 2.5 star. If people don't consider DeAndre Ayton a star, he should be because he's going to be a champion soon. So I think people are just going to be. I think this is going to just elevate those players because obviously Chris Paul's always been considered a star, but Devin Booker should have always been considered a star. But we talked about him not having casual fans due to not playing in the playoffs. But those 3 guys winning a championship, they're just going to be considered a big 3 after the season, which they should be because they're going to have a championship.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, speaking of role players who stepped up, the Clippers put up a really, really good fight against the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. No Kawhi the entire series. Paul George silenced a lot of people who were calling him out. Terrence Mann showed that he's part of the future. Reggie Jackson played himself into a nice contract. I guess, assuming Kawhi comes back 100%, which I think is probably a safe assumption, and having Paul George there, I don't know if you get Ibaka's on a player option. I'm sure coming off his surgery, he's going to be accepting that.
Yeah.
Like what is there? Is it just minor tweaks around the core, like letting Terrence Mann play more? Do you bring back Reggie Jackson? Like there's a couple decisions you got to make there.
So key one, re-sign Kawhi at all possibilities because you're going to have a lot of suitors for him. And key 2, Kawhi's probably going to have some type of demand. And he keeps it very locked down because we never knew he wanted Paul George till that signing thing happened, right? So you probably have to fulfill that Kawhi demand, which might be getting a point guard, getting whatever, to sign Kawhi. And you have to do it because you traded all your picks to get those guys. So do Kawhi's demand, get Kawhi back, and then try to re-sign Reggie Jackson and Nick Batum for the minimums or whatever you can, the most you can offer them because those guys are huge for you. Terrence Mann is a restricted or he's up for extension. So you're going to bring him back 100%. Serge Ibaka, like 98% is going to opt into his player option because he just came off surgery. Zubac is still going to be there. Morris is still going to be there. Pat Bev, all these contracts, Luke Kennard, all these contracts and money are still going to be there. Maybe combine a couple of those. We've seen Kemba Walker being linked to them. We've seen Russell Westbrook being linked to them or in the Lakers. So if Kawhi really wants a PG, one of those guys
Kyle
probably
Lowry,
fills that suit.
Maybe.
Yeah, hopefully the Raptors don't do that because I'm going to be pretty sad to see Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard, and Serge Ibaka win another championship. But it might happen. I hope it doesn't, but it might happen. Yeah, so get that PG in there, re-sign Kawhi, bring back your bench guys. And moving Reggie Jackson, Nick Batum, Terrence Mann all to the bench after they just had such a good playoff series, like your bench is going to be back to the Clippers bench that was so solid. Lou Williams is also another name to look out for. We know he loves LA. I know he just got traded out there, so he might not sign there. But he did great things for the Atlanta Hawks, so he's going to get some team's going to sign him. So just watch out for him as well.
Yeah, it basically comes down to keep Kawhi, keep Paul George, who like Paul George isn't all
Obviously,
like
yeah,
Paul George is a top whatever 15 player in the NBA. Like he
he's
has some
good.
bad games, but Paul George is like good enough to be the second best player on a championship team, I think. And I think Ty Lue has to have like like a
A lot
lot
of
more
credit,
respect
yeah,
as like one of the very best coaches in the NBA. He knows his team. He's makes more adjustments probably in this one playoffs than any coach. And I think with a coach like him, with Kawhi and Paul George, with a potentially really deep bench that showed that they can play uh, winning basketball in the playoffs,
yeah,
I don't know. I think the Clippers could be like a top tier, top 2-3 championship favorite going into next year without any major tweaks. Like obviously bringing a Kyle Lowry if that's what Kawhi wants,
yeah.
Westbrook if that's what he wants. Even if you don't think it's going to fit, you have to do it. But
The thing,
um, yeah,
the thing with Kawhi, even if you have a good regular season, he's gonna look to the future.
yeah,
He's gonna know recognize that the Nets are gonna be healthy, the Lakers are gonna be healthy, the Warriors are gonna make a push and get better.
yeah,
He's gonna realize that because he won a championship with the Raptors, and he literally told them, "You're not gonna win again with the
yeah,
same core."
yeah,
Like he literally said, "Trade for PG and Westbrook if you want to win." You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like he's gonna look for the future, and I think he is gonna make a big demand, like get a
mm-hmm.
Kemba Walker, Russell Westbrook, or Kyle Lowry, or maybe even a DeMar DeRozan. You know, someone who's really good
Mm.
at playmaking and scoring. So we're gonna see a big change for this Clippers team because that's who Kawhi Leonard is.
Yeah,
He's gonna do it all behind the scenes. The front office is going to catch a lot of slack for it from fans because fans are going to be like, we just made the conference finals without two of our starters and we
yeah,
just pushed them to 6 games. You know what I mean? And we could have pushed them to 7 games if PG didn't have a horrible free throw shooting like that one night. But you know what I mean? That's who Kawhi Leonard is. He's a really really a real person. You know what I mean? Like he's
yeah,
going to recognize the injuries. He's going to make that heavy push and
yeah.
expect a big change. Expect a point guard. Kemba, Russell Westbrook, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan. Expect one of those guys to be a Clipper.
Yeah, especially because the Clippers have so many movable contracts like
Yeah,
Morris, Kennard, like those
Pat
are
Bev,
Pat Bev,
those three.
really nicely sized contracts to get trades
Short
like that
too.
done. Yeah. Speaking of point guards, the Atlanta Hawks are coming off one of the most impressive seasons in a long time, one of the most overachieving seasons in a long time. But I don't even think they overachieved. I think we just kind of found out who they actually were. We found
Yeah,
out that Trae Young is one of the best players in the league, like you said, up there with Doncic as the face of the young face of the league. Um, Clint Capella, like the team just fits together so well. Bogdanovich, really well coached. So I think Nate McMillan needs to be re-signed as the coach. I guess the only other real decision right now is just John Collins, right? John Collins is an
sign.
RFA. Do you just give
Yeah.
him the max without thinking?
You just match whatever he does because if you're gonna
Yeah,
give him a max anyways, like if he can't get a max on the free market, then
yeah,
cool, you got him for a little bit less. But if you want to keep maybe relationships to the
yeah,
best of ability, because we know like the Raptors re-signed Siakam so early because they wanted to
yeah,
keep that relationship healthy. Maybe just give him the max right away. But he's an RFA, so you're keeping him no matter what. Trae Young's extension is going to be a max extension. Uh, and this is a team that you do keep together, unlike
yeah.
the Clippers or whatever, where they're going to make a big change. Because you expect enough internal growth
Mm-hmm.
for this team to push that next level. You
Yeah,
expect Trae Young to get even better. You expect John Collins to get even better. You expect Hunter to come back and be better than he was in the regular
yeah.
season. You
Reddish.
Kevin Herter could make that improvement.
Yeah,
Reddish, who played an amazing last
yeah.
game of the season, maybe he could keep
Kongwu.
that up.
Yeah,
Okongwu finally getting minutes in the
yeah,
playoffs and showing he's that
yeah,
versatile defender. Imagine
yeah,
another season of experience under him. So he's going
yeah,
to get better. Gallinari, Bogdanovich, they're going to be asked for to do way less because now all these other guys are stepping up, so they could just have their spurts of moments. Maybe try to re-sign Lou Will because we know Lou Will likes the Atlanta chicken wings, so maybe there. And we know he just had one of his best playoff
yeah,
runs, so maybe you could try to get him to re-sign. And you just kind of keep this core together, keep everyone happy,
yeah.
and just try it another year because you did so well this year that you have to give this team one more year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're in a really nice spot because even if they just run it back with the same team, bring back Collins, like they can be one of the best scoring teams in the league with like
Yeah,
Trae Young, Bogdanovich, John Collins, Gallo, whatever, someone else lineup.
Hunter,
But like
yeah,
once Hunter comes back, once Reddish comes back, you can play Okongwu like Capella. You have really good defensive players in there too,
defenders.
right?
Yeah,
So right now they're a really versatile team, really good scoring team, really well coached team. And then in the near future wise, like Gallo comes off the books, Capella comes off, right? By that time,
yeah,
Okongwu might be able to be your starting five. You don't need Gallo so much anymore because Herter's improved or whatever. And then you
yeah,
can make a push, sign like a whoever the next max free agent on the market is, right? So this team's in a really, really nice spot. Bring back Collins, maybe like you said, sign him to a max right away. Just you can maintain that relationship. That's kind of the only thing. Just run it back and see how far you can go.
yeah. Like the only way, like this team, you have to run it back because next offseason is also the big offseason with all those free agents. So why not just keep this team together, right?
Yeah,
The best free agent potentially if Kawhi Leonard resigns right away, which we all
yeah.
expect him to, with Chris Paul resigns right away, which we all expect him to do. So if those two guys are off the books, it's
DeMar
DeMar
DeRozan,
DeRozan. Yeah, so
Kyle
DeMar
Lowry.
DeRozan, Kyle
Yeah,
Lowry aren't really going to change your team that much, where
yeah,
you need to like go get them. So just keep your core together, be
yeah,
happy with it.
yeah,
You guys succeeded to the most extent, and
yeah,
Trey Young can potentially win MVP next year. You know what I mean? If they
yeah,
get like a number one seed, Trey Young has all the tools to win MVP
yeah.
next year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because I remember going into the season, Luka Doncic was the
The
favorite for
favorite.
no
Yeah.
reason other than just like another year under his belt. He showed how
Yeah.
good he is. We didn't think they were going to be a winning team. The Hawks could be in the perfect type of team for Trae Young to win an MVP, right? Because we're expecting them to be like top six with
Five,
everyone healthy,
4.
top 5, 6, 4, 5. If they
Yeah.
get like a top 3, 2, 3 seed, and Trae Young basically has the same season he had this year,
Yeah.
like narrative push, he could totally win the MVP, like totally.
Yeah. Trey Young had good enough numbers the last 2 years to win MVP. And
Yeah,
this year he had a good enough, almost good enough record with the fifth seed.
yeah,
If he gets that 4-3-2-1, man, we could see a real push for MVP.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's a couple trade rumors we need to talk about. So I guess the one that's mainly been in the rumors, well, we all know Ben Simmons, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with that. An actual concrete report came out that the Sixers turned down Malcolm Brogdon and first a pick for Ben Simmons. First of all, do you agree with that? Do you think Indiana can add anything to that to make it happen? And what does this just mean for Ben Simmons' trade value on the marketplace and everything?
Yeah. So you turned down Malcolm Brogdon and the 13th pick. That's what it was. There's been some Indiana reporters that said this is false. This is just
Yeah.
Sixers throwing this out to
Hmm.
increase value. So that might be true. That might
Yeah.
not be true. But if this is being turned down and it's being like a concrete thing, like, hey, we need value bigger than this for
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, I don't think a trade's gonna happen. Because
Hmm.
I don't think a team's gonna give more value than that for Ben Simmons because of fear of their fan base. I think
Yeah.
a lot of executives, a lot of coaches, a lot of NBA players realize how good Ben Simmons is, but they know how much backlash they'll get if they trade a huge haul for Ben Simmons. Like you're really gonna trade that for a guy who can't shoot, for a guy who won't shoot, not even can't shoot. Like Giannis can't shoot. This guy
Yeah.
won't shoot. It's a big difference. So yeah, they're gonna get a huge backlash. The only team that I could see maybe getting a better offer, like if they like D'Angelo Russell and Beasley, I don't know if that's that much better,
Yeah.
but that is an offer that, those guys are still young. Those guys still
Hmm.
have time to get better as well. So maybe the Sixers look at that. Sexton has been put a lot with these
Yeah.
trades because obviously there's little contract disputes there too. So that could happen too. But man, I don't know if you could really get way better value than Brogdon at 13. So I don't know. Maybe Ben Simmons doesn't get traded.
Yeah. I honestly have no idea what his value is right now. Like the CJ McCollum seems to be the guy that everyone thinks is of equal value.
Yeah.
Like CJ McCollum definitely fits a lot better on Philly, but like he is a huge injury history. Like, is he
Yeah.
already with Embiid, who's not the most durable guy in the world? I don't know if I feel so great about that as if I'm the Sixers and if they're turning down Malcolm Brogdon in the 13th pick, which maybe is a little bit. I can understand why they would do that, but I don't think you're going to get much better than that, right?
Yeah.
So if they're turning that down and putting that out into the public, like maybe you're right. Maybe this doesn't get done.
Yeah, because I wouldn't do that too if I was the
Yeah,
Sixers. Like, I'm not saying Daryl Morey made the wrong decision because
yeah,
I don't think that elevates the Sixers into title contention. But like, that's what the offers you're gonna get. And I
yeah,
think Daryl Morey just put that out there to be like, hey, these are what teams are offering me, Sixers fans. Like, this is why Ben Simmons is not getting moved because these are the type of trade offers we're getting. I think he's trying to just tell the fans, like, hey, don't expect the Ben Simmons trade. I know you guys are all talking about it.
yeah,
I talked to Rich Paul. I talked to other NBA fan bases. They're super low. This is the value they're giving me.
yeah,
we don't agree with it. And then other fan bases could be like, hey, this is why we didn't trade for Ben Simmons. These
Yeah.
trades were offered Malcolm Brogdon the 13th, and they said no. So
Yeah.
it's just to satisfy the fans and kind of just bring down the speculations because fans are going crazy about Ben Simmons.
Yeah. The Sixers, they're in just such a weird spot because they're trading a star, but
A star.
they're a win now team, right? They made it
Yeah.
to the into the second round of the playoffs. So like, because a team like the Warriors, right? Like Wiggins, Wiseman, and like one of their
Seventh.
7, like
Yeah.
that's a good trade on paper, but that doesn't make sense for the Sixers right now. So the
Sixers.
options
Yeah.
are very, very, very limited. So it's probably more likely than not that he actually just stays on the Sixers.
Yeah, and I guess we could transition this well into the next guy that's been in
Yeah.
trade rumors a lot. That's Damian Lillard. That's
Yeah.
who kind of the Sixers want to get the most. But I don't know if the Trailblazers actually move on from him. I kind of don't think those reports are true. I think they will stay together. I think they will start the season together because he still has like 4 years left on his contract. He's still only 30 years old. So I think he's going to be on that team for a long time to come. Obviously, we've seen Ben Simmons. We've seen everything thrown at Damian Lillard. We've seen the Brandon Ingram plus picks. We've seen the uh, Ben Simmons, Maxi, Thibault plus picks. Like these are great offers. Like Brandon
Yeah.
Ingram's a great player. Ben Simmons is a great player. Like if you get Brandon Ingram and maybe Trey CJ McCollum and other guys for Ben Simmons, if you get those two guys as your core for the future, that's good.
Yeah.
But I just can't see Damian Lillard getting moved. I don't know. Maybe it's too much loyalty that he's embedded into the NBA fans base. I just can't see it getting
Yeah,
happening.
no, I agree. I think like even though that is a nice trade on paper, like you need to overpay. I think you need to pay like 150 cents on the dollar to
Yeah,
get, because he's not just a superstar. He's like
the heart,
Portland's
the
the
face.
heart of Portland. Like he puts Portland on the map, right? He's probably like what, as far as fan bases go, he's probably one of the most beloved players in the entire NBA. So unless you're getting blown away by an offer, and I don't think, well, also I don't think they're going to trade him unless he asks out, right? Because if he actually
Yeah,
asks out, then you have to. But I don't think they want to trade him. I don't know why you would want to trade him. He makes you like an exciting team, puts you in the playoffs every year. And if you put even a decent player beside him, put a decent team around him, you're going to go like at least to the second round if you're healthy.
yeah. The thing is, if they can get the CJ and like Robert Covington
Hmm.
for Ben Simmons, I actually would like that core
Oh
of
yeah,
Brandon Ingram, Ben Simmons, and a bunch of picks because that'll be a very fun team to watch and play. So they can really quickly like shift it to like where they're not even in the bottom
yeah,
of the like draft because I don't think that team will be in the
yeah,
bottom of the draft where they're still like competitive playing team, but with just with a bunch of picks and a bunch of young guys. So it would be interesting. It's a lot of fun stuff for us to talk about, like
yeah,
podcast guys talk
yeah.
about, oh, this trade rumor, that trade rumor. How's Damon Zion gonna play? How's CJ Covington and Embiid gonna play? You know, it's a lot of fun speculation, but it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. Another team, our team, the Raptors, is in the rumors a little bit. I don't know how accurate this report is, but for somehow the rumor of Pascal Siakam to the Warriors for Wiseman and 7,
Seven.
the 7th pick, kind of surfaced. Like, I don't know. I guess that makes sense as a trade for both sides. I think Siakam will really help them. He can be the third best player on the team. He can really help
Yeah.
them defensively. He would fit in really nicely there. And then this just puts the Raptors into full rebuild mode. I guess it just comes down if you're a Raptors fan. Do you want to retool and compete and be like a play-in team, a 6 seed, or do you want to just go full rebuild and have like Wiseman, Jalen Suggs, Gary Trent
Yeah.
Jr., OG, and just build around that?
I think the Warriors are just using Pascal Siakam's name to increase the value
Mm,
of these picks and these assets. Because if they associate this package of Wiseman and the 7 to someone like Pascal Siakam,
yeah,
maybe you could get Wiseman, Poole 7 for Christian Wood, and then now Rockets fans and like Rockets, like everyone organization is like, oh man, we got such an overpay for Wood because he's just on 2 years and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They're just using Pascal Siakam's name to increase the value. I don't think Pascal Siakam gets traded for Wiseman in 7th.
yeah,
I think Wiseman's value is really down from the number 2 pick of last year. Uh, Unfortunate because I think most teams besides the Warriors take LaMelo Ball there in the number 2 spot. They kind of took need like a Aiton type situation.
yeah.
It hasn't worked out so far, but he's still so young. He still has so much
Oh yeah,
potential. Still can shoot. Still crazy athleticism. So someone definitely not to give up on. And we still see like Clay took him on a boat ride, right? So we still see the Warriors players like ignoring this and trying to bond, trying to teach, trying to learn, trying to get to know each other. And with the Warriors adding Clay Thompson, they're going to be a playoff team already. If they add someone like a Christian Wood while keeping Wiggins, that's why I don't think the Siakam trade goes, because they think you have to add Wiggins to make the contract work. Whereas Christian Wood, you don't have to add Wiggins, but you have to add someone like Poole instead. So that's why I don't think the Siakam trade works, because it's just too much. Like the Warriors don't fit as well with Siakam, but Wood kind of fits better with them. So yeah, just look out for that. I think that's the player that they're going to push hard for, Wood, because you can still have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Christian Wood, and then you can still have one of your picks, 7 or 14, on the bench, and then you can still have those like, man, you can still get those like veterans to come, because you know your Golden State Warriors, you have Steph Curry and Klay, you could convince them, and you could have such a good team. And that starting five, man, that's a championship contending team in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. Even with Klay, not like with 100% Klay, I think that's maybe a championship
favorites.
Team. Yeah. But with like an 85% Klay, that's still a championship contender, right? And we're gonna see all these the drafts coming up, like basically right after the finals ends. We're gonna do our mock draft and then all the draft stuff. So, like, we're gonna see these happen like in the near future, like over the next month or so. But that's pretty much all the rumors that have been going on right now. Moving on to something a little more sad to end this off. We were both super excited for the Olympics. Like we saw the guys committed to Team USA. Team USA has a pretty good team. Kevin Durant's playing. But I was excited about Team Canada because even though we didn't have Shea, who's injured, Dylan Brooks didn't play. Kelly Olynyk is he's coming off a contract here. Understandable that these guys didn't play, but RJ Barrett is playing. Andrew Wiggins is playing. A lot of NBA players on paper should be the second best team, if not a top 3 or 4 team in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Lost to the Czech Republic in the qualifying tournament, didn't qualify. And I don't know. It's just sad. Any thoughts?
Yeah, we just see like Luka leads Slovenia to Tokyo Olympics. So that's kind of sad to see, where we can see like Canada with these bunch of like NBA players, NBA level players versus against like a Luka-led team where it's just one star.
Yeah,
it kind of sucks. Obviously that pulls out a lot of attention from the Olympics basketball, because Canada versus USA was one of the more hyped games. We've seen a lot of New York fans get into it because RJ Barrett. We've seen a lot of Golden State fans get into it because of Andrew Wiggins. We've seen a lot of OKC fans get into it because of Dort. So, and obviously we've seen a lot of Raptors fans because most of us are Canadian. So like it was crazy. It was a lot of hype. Sucks that it didn't happen. Congrats to USA for the gold already. If Luka Doncic can win a gold medal, man, this is equivalent to an NBA championship. So if he could win one, that's something to look out for. If Luka's in that gold medal game, that's gonna be one of the most watched gold medal.
Yeah, the dream's not dead for Canada because
2024.
Once 2024, but also like there's the World Championships and everything. If Jamal Murray comes back healthy, if Shea is healthy, like Canada can put out a really, really, really good team with like, especially 2 years from now, like legitimate NBA all-stars, right? Because Shea and Jamal Murray are all-star caliber players. Hopefully RJ Barrett gets there too. So hopefully, 2 years from now, we get that Canada USA gold medal game, which is, like one of the most basketball games in Canada, like up there with like the Raptors championship run.
Yeah, like these Olympic games are going to be pushing the dream team's records of like views, because now there's finally enough stories and records and like non-USA players where USA basketball is worth watching. It's like, oh man, obviously Giannis is probably not going to play this Olympics because he just had a finals run and he hurt his leg. But in the future, it's going to be, oh man, Giannis versus all these NBA stars. Can he win it? Can he steal a game? Luka versus all these stars. Jokic versus all these stars.
Yeah.
Canada's all-around team, or maybe Shea pulls that way into stardom, against all these stars, So it's going to be a lot of stories. Basketball's looking great Olympic-wise, and we're going to be so much better in 2024, where we're going to be favorites to get silver.
Yeah. I don't think this is even Canada's golden generation. I think this is just kind of the start, the first wave
of the golden.
The Vince Carter, the Carter effect, right? This is the first wave of those guys coming up, and it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. We're going to see more and more, we talked about this with Jack Armstrong, right? More and more prospects
Yeah,
showing up in the drafts and stuff like that. It's only going to keep growing, and I think Canada will solidify itself as like the the little brother to the U.S. and the Olympics and stuff
yeah.
like that. Always in the gold medal game. Hopefully, getting medals.
Yeah, because like me, you, like Shay, like people our age, those are the guys our age, right? When we talked about Rudy Williams and stuff, we
Hmm.
talked about Vince Carter and the effect, and Jack Armstrong said, yeah, that was a huge effect, Vince Carter effect. That's what made you guys start this podcast, made Rudy Williams play D1, made Shay
Hmm.
go to the NBA and stuff like that. But now we have an NBA championship.
Yep.
So the kids growing up with this, they can
Kawhi
talk about
effect.
the
Yeah.
championship one, the Kawhi effect, the Kyle Lowry effect,
Yeah.
the We the North movement. And
Yeah.
it's just going to produce so much more NBA talent, going to produce so much more D1 players, going to produce so much more. And we're just going to have such a bigger pool of NBA talent and
Yeah.
league level talent that's going to be, we're going to be challengers. We're going to push it. The little brothers might
Yeah.
squeak a gold medal here or there
Yeah.
soon
We're hopefully gonna get to the point where some NBA players are not good enough to make the
to
roster
make it.
instead of
Yeah.
having
Choosing not to.
rostering some non-NBA players. Like shout out to Anthony Bennett for always showing up for Canada and
Always.
always representing. But hopefully it gets to the point where we don't need players like him on the roster.
Yeah, hopefully it gets to the point where NBA players are competing to get to the roster. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like players like Kevin Love are scrutinized to be making the USA roster because they weren't good enough in the NBA season.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get to the point where NBA players are scrutinized.
Yeah.
Like, man, you took Anthony Bennett over
Yeah.
Birch or Kelly
Yeah.
Olynyk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's gonna
Yeah.
happen soon.
Yeah. And nonetheless, without Canada, it's going to be a really exciting Olympics just to see like Kevin Durant. Who else is on the James Harden?
Devin Booker,
Devin
James Harden
Booker.
sat out because of the
Oh,
hamstring injury.
yeah. James Harden said hamstring. Yeah. But Kevin
Kevin
Durant,
Love,
like Kevin Love. Yeah. We
Draymond
got
Green.
Draymond Green. It's a pretty interesting team. And they're
Yeah.
still coached by Popovich, right? It's still I think
I'm not sure about that actually.
I think it's still Popovich. I have to double check that. I know it's Nick Nurse for Canada, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, like we kind of talked about this before, but Nick Nurse like worked that tampering magic a little bit. RJ Barrett, there's not really anyone else worth tampering for on that Canada roster right now. But like in the future,
Dort maybe.
Dort, Shea, and Jamal Murray come up through the rankings, and maybe once they come up on a contract, Nick Nurse is like, hey, like I've shown I know how to get the most out of you in high pressure situations.
Yeah, and it is still Greg Popovich. I just double checked. So hopefully Greg Popovich gets that Olympic gold medal. I know he was on that team that got the silver or bronze a couple of like
Bronze,
way back.
Yeah,
way back in the day. And I know he got a lot of flack for that. Hopefully, man, this might be a send off for Greg Popovich.
This might be his way to go out, right? Greg Popovich going on top, gold medal. Yeah,
might be a way out. So we never know.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers it for this episode. Thank you everyone for listening. Like always, we'll be back next Sunday to talk the finals, maybe some more trade rumors, who knows. But in the meantime, check us out on Instagram at Stretch the Floor Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, STF Clips, for the best clips from the podcast. But most importantly, subscribe to the podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and review because it all really helps. And other than that, we will see you next week.